tonight, Bonnie nearing hurricane strength as the Western Pacific begins to quiet down. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Trump with a bulletin for July 4th. Well, here we are with another day in the wide world of tropics as we hit the 4th of July. Bonnie seeking independence as the only storm it seems soon enough, with Aere and Chaba both fading away, leaving it to be the only storm soon enough. 34 storms have formed so far this year, with the average being 92 overall in a given year. It's day 34 of Atlantic hurricane season, and no systems are active after Colin's pathetic failure as a tropical storm lasting 18 hours, the entire track of it being inland. Not something you see every day, and it looks like Colin was a slop storm in the end for the second time in a row. In the eastern Pacific, you can see what's going on with Tropical Storm Bonnie, which is now up to 70 miles an hour and will likely be a hurricane extremely soon. Probably the advisory that comes out after this TWB is out, given the fact it is continuing to strengthen. We'll get more on that later, but it is now day 51 of the Eastern Pacific season. Nothing else in the next 5 days. In the Western Pacific, Chaba has now become a remnant low, while Aere continues to look pitiful, as it is now east of Shanghai and giving some rain to Japan and South Korea, along with some rain in the Okinawa Island still. In the North Indian Ocean, there is still nothing going on, as it is not really the time for anything to be going on to begin with, so this is actually what we should be seeing. I haven't really said anything much in the North Indian Ocean since I haven't done the last TWB in a few days, but nothing's gone on and nothing's still going on, so what do you expect at this point? It is July after all. But here's the satellite imagery on Tropical Storm Bonnie, which is likely to be Hurricane Bonnie shortly. You can see it's had an eye feature that's been trying to show itself in the last few frames there, especially earlier this afternoon. Definitely getting better organized, and it's in pretty good conditions, and it's expected to become a Category 2 by the National Hurricane Center, so pretty good future here for Bonnie, despite coming from the Atlantic. So here's the Atlantic satellite imagery. You can see there's nothing going on. The remnants of Colin have pretty much gotten absorbed by a cold front at this point. Other than that, nothing else that looks discernible in any kind of way. In the Eastern Pacific, you can quite clearly see Bonnie. It has had a very healthy convective life over the last 24 hours here. And there is nothing else to the west of it because it's pretty much a bunch of dry air. Not much in the immediate future for Bonnie though. Western Pacific, you can see Chaba inland China, and you can also see Aere, or some of Aere, because it looks more like a frontal system at this point, to the south of South Korea. And in the North Indian Ocean, you can see the monsoon activity going on in the Bay of Bengal. Some monsoon activity also going on in the Arabian Sea, but it is definitely more prolific in the Bay of Bengal side of things. Next up, we have the southwestern Indian Ocean. You can see what's going on here. It's pretty dry with some serious clouds overspreading the region. Other than that, really not much going on, and anything that's going to be developing is not going to be developing in general. In the Australian region, you can see what's going on here. Some clouds that are affecting northeastern parts of Australia. Other than that, really nothing going on. Western Australia is completely dry, and nothing that's going to be any kind of surface to develop anytime soon. Here are the sea surface temperatures. You can see right now it's in the upper 20s in the Eastern Pacific, 28 to 29, where Bonnie currently is. It's going to be staying in this for a few more days before it enters those cooler temperatures. Gulf of Mexico, it's around 28 to 29 with some areas at 30 degrees Celsius. In the Caribbean and main development region, we're looking at those temperatures around 28 to 29. You can start to see a little bit of a upblowing that was left behind by Bonnie there, thanks to the fact it was already divot, and now that divot has been more pronounced as a result of Bonnie passing over. So that is a little bit interesting to see. Bay of Bengal, it's around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius, and the Arabian Sea, it's around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius at the moment. As you head into the Western Pacific, those temperatures are around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius throughout a majority of the basin, although those temperatures did decrease quite a bit in the South China Sea as a result of Chaba. It looks like the temperatures did decrease to the northeast of the Philippines quite a bit as well as a result of Aere, so those two storms did take a giant punch out of those 30 degrees Celsius temperatures, which is always a good thing. As long as we don't have those warmer temperatures, that does prevent things, it does act as another limiting factor for these storms. In terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies, you can see everything is still above average in the Atlantic and West Pacific. Eastern Pacific is pretty much below average for the most part, and the Northern Atlantic is below average as well. Everywhere north of Hawaii is looking above average, but as we know, everything does not form north of Hawaii, so we shouldn't be expecting anything at all there. Ocean heat content, the Caribbean continues to be a hot spot that develops more ocean heat content by the day. That death spot near the eastern Gulf of Mexico continues to remain. In the western Pacific, there is still quite a lot of ocean heat content to the east of the Philippines, and as you head into the eastern Pacific, there is next to none. Like, literally, it is so beyond unhealthy, it makes every other basin look pathetic. How much it has nothing. So we're looking at the tropical tidbits 18Z GFS run as we typically do in my TWBs, and let's see what we deal with in the Eastern Pacific. I've already checked the electric, there's nothing about the hour 120, so we won't bother to check there. But you can see what ends up of Bonnie as it continues its journey into the Eastern Pacific. And it looks like it's going to strengthen a little bit further, peaking around, well, apparently it's still peaking around day 4 and 5 to them. Looks like it finally starts weakening around the day 5 mark. But not Category 3 is what the GFS seems to want and has been wanting for a bit now. It all depends on how fast it intensifies. Now, given the fact that it's already 70 miles an hour, and we could be looking at a hurricane shortly, Category 2 is looking more and more likely, but we'll see what ends up happening. It would be hilarious if the strongest Pacific hurricane season so far ends up being from Atlantic east-back crossover. That would definitely be a new one. In terms of the Western Pacific, however, you can see what ends up of what we have left. Chaba, of course, continuing to weaken inland now. It looks like it's initializing these two storms too strong, given the fact that it looks like Aere is now in the 1000 millibars, or getting there soon enough, and Chaba, at least according to the 18Z ATCF run, is negative 46 million millibars. Now, obviously that is completely wrong, as that would mean it's stronger than Colin 2027, but I think they did just fix the glitch there. I don't think it's it's negative 46 million millibars any longer. But, assuming it is, you can see that it weakens practically to the point the low is gone in the next 12 hours, for pretty much the run to continue to give some rain to eastern China. And it looks like we could be watching a new disturbance form around hour 120 near the Mariana Islands. We'll see what ends up with that. But as of right now, there's little model support and there's next to no ensemble support at all, which is why we haven't marked that as an area of interest at the moment. But we'll keep a track of it just in case we do need to add it at some point. So here is the longer range, and you can see what ends up of Bonnie as it continues to weaken as it heads westward while a new disturbance tries to form. Now, of course, this is something that the GFS has been hinting on, but consistently delaying for quite a while now. But it should be no surprise they want it to become a hurricane at 972 millibars before making a new peak at 965, and eventually they start killing it off towards the middle of the month. I don't see this happening, especially when the fact that you have a legit high pressure system next to a heavy rain shower that is going on near the Texas-Mexico border. That is your first red flag that model run is not going to verify. A high pressure system does not bring freaking rain, or heavy rain for that matter, right around it. That's just not how physics works. But of course the GFS is seemingly under the weather today, so we'll see what ends up with them. In the Western Pacific, you can see what ends up of that disturbance. It looks like the GFS wants to rapidly strengthen it into a major typhoon. Sounds about right for them, while trying to develop another disturbance to the east of Vietnam. And it looks like another disturbance to the east of this storm in general. So it looks like we could be dealing with, I'm not sure what to say about this. We have a 973 millibar typhoon about to hit Vietnam, and a 928 millibar typhoon that is just chilling, racing towards Taiwan and the Okinawa Islands. To emphasize the fact that probably won't happen, and the fact that this is probably something that belongs in the silly range models and not here, yeah, I'm not even sure, and I'm kind of scared to go into the silly models now. Just a reminder, you can go to the Force 13 store as a part of our shameless plug to check out our stuff, buy some stuff with our logo on it. You can even buy some sweaters if you feel the need for, unless you're in Arizona. And you can buy a pillow to sleep on because you have nothing else better in your life to do. So here is the silly models. I'm genuinely terrified as to what I'm about to see here because I'm covering this as I see it. And you can see what ends up happening. It looks like it finally bottoms out and starts slowly weakening. Okay, never mind, it's going for a second peak. Okay, so we're talking Category 4 into the Okinawa Islands. Okay, that's a bit, yeah, okay, so the Category 3 landfall in China as well. Yeah, I'm not seeing that happening. Yeah, no. Just no. We're just gonna skip right past here and go to the, on this day, because I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. That was a terrifying GFS run. So, back to realistic things, given the fact this is an actual thing that happened on the 4th of July 2000. We had Typhoon Kurogi, which was about to reach its peak the following day. It was a Category 3 on the 4th, with winds of 115 miles an hour. It was also Tropical Depression 6W that was just to the west of the northern Philippines and bringing some heavy rainfall there. There was also a pathetic and sad depression named Tropical Depression 4E. Now, 4E would go on and have such a great life that it wouldn't even become a tropical storm at all. 6W would become Kaitak, and Kurogi would eventually hit Japan. You can find more of our On This Day products by going to Cyclone history in the bottom bar below. Well, looking at the next names, the next name in the Atlantic is now Danielle, followed by Earl. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking out for Darby and Estelle, and in the Central Pacific, well, maybe the 4th of July, I'm pretty sure someone will still be setting off fireworks when Hone finally forms. In the Western Pacific, we're looking out for Songda, followed by Trazes, and in the North Indian Ocean, the next two names here are Citrang, followed by Mandis. It feels so great to say something else for the Western Pacific after 3 months of saying the same thing for the Western Pacific names. In the Australian region, the next name is Darian, followed by Ellie. In the Southwestern Indian Ocean, we have two names now, so the next two names now are Ashley and Belita. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Holly. We'll be back for another Chocolate Bulletin tomorrow night.